Feast TV is brought to you with support by Missouri Wines and Whole Foods Market at Town & Country and the Galleria. Ever wonder where your milk comes from? Well, this month we are taking you to an artisan dairy north of Kansas City, as well as an Elk Ranch in St. Genevieve County, a craft distillery in Carbondale, Illinois, and an amazing brewery in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm Catherine Neville, and this is Feast TV. In this episode, we are going to be making a massive French feast. We're going to start with an appetizer of baked eggs. We're going to sear off some ribeyes and serve them with a béarnaise sauce. We have a rustic French salad, and then we're going to end everything up with a pine nut tart. Now, all of these recipes are from this book, and there's a wonderful woman in Louisiana, Missouri, which is a couple of hours north of St. Louis, whose grandfather studied under none other than Escoffier. And so this book, A Culinary Legacy, modernizes all of those traditional recipes, and that's what we're going to be making. And I'm going to start off with that baked egg dish. You might think that the eggs would be raw, but they are hard boiled, and this is very, very simple. So our eggs layered in the dish, and now I'm just going to drizzle over a couple of tablespoons of heavy cream and top with just a little bit of Emmentaler. You could also use Swiss cheese or Jarlsberg. Now we're just going to put on some pepper, a little bit of salt, stick it in a 400-degree oven, and that's it. And voila. Now this, of course, you'll just want to serve with some crusty bread or some crackers. So the next dish that we're making in our simple French feast is, of course, the steak with béarnaise sauce. But before we get to that, let's head north of Kansas City to the Shatto Milk Company.
My name is Barbara Shatto, and we're at Shatto Milk Company here in Osborn, Missouri. This is my family's farm. Actually, the dairy has been here for over 70 years. The actual farm has been in my family for over 100 years. We're going to go in here to the left, and you can actually see where we keep all of our flavors of milk and our white milk. Many years ago, and also when I was growing up, my family sold milk to a big conglomerate, if you will. Well, about 11 years ago, or probably more like 12 years ago, the milk prices were extremely low, and feed and other costs were extremely high, so we really had no choice. We had to do something different in order to survive the family farm. And that's when Shatto Milk Company, the concept, started. And in the morning, all the trucks will come in, and this will be totally empty, and we'll have to start all over again.
This is like old-fashioned.
It is.
This is awesome.
Actually, this is our bottle washer. This is an old relic, if you will, because there's not new ones anymore. The bottles are washed and sanitized in this machine. Then it goes through the wall there to the conveyor, and that's where then the milk is actually filled. We were scared to death to start out, and we only had 80 cows, and we were very concerned about the fact, would people buy our milk in glass bottles and fresh from the farm? Actually, 2 months after we started, we had to double our herd. The response was phenomenal, and today we have over 400 cows.
2,000 gallons a day?
Yes, yes.
So 4,000 bottles a day.
Exactly. And you know, we always need more milk. We're always telling the cows, milk some more and give them more music so they'll be happy.
Wait a second, more music?
Yes, cows like music, and it makes them relax more, and they're happier cows.
What kind?
Oh, you know, I like classical.
Yeah.
Some of the guys up at the barn like country, so we argue about that. We milk the cows, we bottle our own milk, and we sell directly to the consumer as well as to the local grocery stores about 100 miles from the farm. We have control of what they're eating, any type of medication that they're given, and they aren't given growth hormones. I think that's a very important thing. We utilize all of our product. We now make butter, cheese, ice cream, and ice cream sandwiches. So it's top quality milk, and it's really the freshest in town because oftentimes our trucks could deliver milk that was actually milked that morning, when they wait for it to be bottled and processed that day.
These are like pampered cows.
They are. We want them to be. And then we name them and we love them. They're our most valuable employee.
I can't wait to meet these cows.
Well, we want you to. We're going to go to the barn next.
Perfect.
We started out with the two staples of flavored milk. We had chocolate and strawberry. Our chocolate was just the best chocolate we think in the whole world, and it was very, very popular. After probably a year and a half to 2 years, we started doing other flavors. We actually took root beer to a festival in Plattsburgh, Missouri, and then got lots of calls about the root beer milk. And now root beer milk is second to chocolate as far as sales go.
I love it. Wait, I'm doing it again. That's fantastic.
You know, Shatto Milk Company in the future and where we want to go is something that people often ask me. And I think the thing that they want to hear is that we're going to be really big, we're going to, you know, ship everything. But that's not really where we want to go. We want to be a local family farm. We want our neighbors and customers to know Shatto Milk, the people who actually handle the cows and provide them with fresh milk, butter, and ice cream. I think we'll expand our cheese products and maybe some of our butter, and so those kinds of things we could ship. But our milk and our flavored milks is something that you can get locally, only at Shatto Milk.
My trip to Shatto Milk Company was a ton of fun, and I think the very best part was being able to see those baby cows. So now I am going to get started on the béarnaise sauce, and I am going to be using a vignole from Cave Rock Vineyard here in Missouri. And I'm going to be adding just 3 tablespoons to my skillet. Now you don't want to use a really sweet wine in this application. You want it to be kind of dry because you want that acidity to really come through. This is just some white wine vinegar. Again, you're going to want 3 tablespoons of this. And then you just want 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. Do not use the stuff in the plastic bottle. Now we're going to chop a tablespoon or so of tarragon. And tarragon, if you've never used it before, has this really wonderful, almost licorice-y flavor to it. It's terrific. Okay. A couple of tablespoons of chopped shallot. We're going to add some cayenne pepper as well, just for a little bit of heat. And now I'm just going to head over to the stove. So right now I have just the wine vinegar reducing, and then once it's down to roughly 1 to 2 tablespoons, I'm going to set it off to the side and allow it to cool. I also have my cast iron, and I am going to be searing these humongous grass-fed ribeyes, and this is what we're going to be serving that béarnaise with. So you can see there's a little bit of smoke coming off of the pan, so I know that it's ready. I've already salt and peppered these steaks. They're huge. I can't believe how big these are. And I'm just going to put them into the pan. Now the key with cooking steaks in this way is that once you put it in the pan, do not move it. I'm just going to let it sit until it easily releases. So this is what you want, a gorgeous crust on the outside. And I like my steaks to be medium rare. And so what you want to do is get both sides nicely seared and then set them on the platter and let them rest. So while those are resting, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the béarnaise sauce. So this is the reduced kind of vinegar wine combo. And now we're going to just separate 4 eggs and add the yolks into the blender. So this is just a stick of butter that has been microwaved to the point of being very, very hot. And I'm going to go ahead and start my food processor. Now, I'm going to slowly drizzle in this very hot butter. Let's take a look. Oh, it looks beautiful. So the next stop on our itinerary this month is Grand River Distillery. It's a craft distillery in Carbondale, Illinois, and let's go see it now.
Distilling is a little bit art and it's a little bit craft. For the sake of history, distilling is a very elemental process. For example, we use a lot of water. You can't distill without water. And there are 3 or 4 different parts of the distilling process that require water. For example, when you're trying to get that wonderful alcohol vapor to turn back into liquid, we run it through a condenser. It will come across this and then we'll hit this condenser. And if you feel this, you'll notice it's very cold. So that hot vapor comes dribbling down into this coolness and automatically re-liquefies, and it dribbles out right here. When we're making bourbon, one of our initial goals is to produce a very sweet, complex spirit that bourbon is already well known for. But we also want to be able to capture the essence of that corn grain that we use in our bourbon. All of our bourbons are 100% corn, which means they're going to be very sweet naturally. Here at Grand River Spirits, we double distill every single batch. The beauty of the distillation process is it allows us to finely tune that quality of the alcohol. We also will do barrel tastings so that we understand the maturation process that's occurring in the barrel. So we're going to pop this open, take a quick whiff.
It really does smell delicious. I love it. And I'm a fan of bourbon. I love bourbon.
Oh, so wonderful. Well, hopefully we have a treat for you. I have to warn you, this is high proof, this is barrel strength. So this is about 125 proof.
I can take it.
It's very corn whiskey-ish.
That's sweet.
That's
nice.
The beauty of working with 100% corn. To make corn whiskey, you have to have a minimum of 51% corn. We make a very conscious decision in using local corn, and when we have flavored corn whiskeys, we work as hard as we can to find the best quality ingredients. We go through a process of infusion to introduce some additional local flavors, and our best seller is the Red Eye Pie, which is an apple pie flavored corn whiskey. We have a hot, which is a spicy cinnamon. We have lemonade, and we have cherry. This is local corn whiskey made with local ingredients. Is just puts an exclamation point on everything. We're the ones who have the access to Southern Illinois' finest ingredients, and that's why we make whiskey.
So now we're going to get started making the pine nut tart, and we're going to make a very traditional short crust, and 2.5 cups of flour are going into the blender, along with just a little pinch of salt, which is already in there. Now I'm going to put in about 3/4 cup of extremely cold butter. All right, now we're just gonna pulse off and on for about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes until this is nice and coarse and is broken up into pieces. So the next ingredient is powdered sugar, but I don't have any powdered sugar, and so I'm going to show you a trick. All you need to make powdered sugar is regular cane sugar and a spice grinder. Sugar's in the spice grinder. It really is amazing how fast this happens. And there you have it, powdered sugar, magic. So that's about 3/4 cup. I'm going to add that in and go ahead and pulse. All right, we are just about finished with the crust, believe it or not. It is really very, very simple. So now I'm just going to add in 2 eggs and a tablespoon of ice water. And you'll see this comes together really fast. Okay, that is it. I'm just gonna pull the dough out. You don't want it to be too sticky because remember, it's not cookies, it's not shortbread cookies, it actually is a pastry dough. Now, I'm just gonna knead it until it's nice and elastic. And then once I get to a point where I'm happy with it, I'm gonna divide it into two and then form it into little discs and stick them in the fridge. So while I'm finishing this up, let's head to St. Genevieve County and explore an elk ranch.
You spend your days out here, if it's blizzard or you're got the flu, you got to go take care of your animals. It doesn't matter. That's a responsibility you take.
Kevin.
Hi.
I'm Cat Neville from Feast TV.
Well, good to meet you. I'm Kevin Hinkabine.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you for doing this today.
Sure, no problem. I'm very happy you come out. And I was getting ready to go feed the elk, so if you'd like to go look at them.
That would be amazing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jump in this Ranger.
Okay, let's go.
I started out in 1990 with a pair of elk, and they were 6-month-old calves. And I've grown the herd from that. I bought a few elk. Most of them are natural additions. And I always try to buy new bulls. Any livestock producer wants to upgrade their herd, whether it's for physical features of size or maybe antler growth or the nature of them. That's always good. Some are just like people. Some are mean and ornery and you don't want them around, and other ones are very easy to get along with.
We're standing out here in the middle of the field with them and they don't seem to be nervous. They just seem really gentle and just kind of, I don't know, like they would even let us pet their noses.
These elk have been around a lot of people. I mean, like I said, even years ago when the kids were little and they had friends, and we was always coming over to feed them, and I'm around them quite a bit, so they tame down. They're not really that wild, I guess, at heart, if they don't need to be.
That's heard before.
It is. Come on, girl.
I would like for you to kind of talk to me about where you see the future of this industry going and what kind of growth that is possible in the industry.
There is a lot of potential for growth in the elk industry. Demand is here. I've experimented with most every product. You know, there's plenty of demand for all of it. I get calls almost on a daily basis. All the products that are derived from elk are quality. Meat's quality. It's a very healthy meat. They call it the heart smart meat because it's very high in protein, low in fat, cholesterol, high in vitamins and iron. Hard antler, when they shed naturally, they're excellent for dog chews. They will last for maybe a month or more, and seems like the dogs have made the opinion poll that they're very good. Velvet antler is basically the antler as it grows. To get prime velvet, you want to cut it about 50 to 60 days from March. Those things aren't going to go away. I'd like to see more young people maybe think about raising elk. It's a good animal. They adapt well to being raised as livestock, and I think they're here to stay.
This is the shortbread crust, and it's been in the refrigerator for a number of hours. You want to make sure that this is refrigerated for at least an hour, if not overnight. So I'm just going to roll this out so that it will fit this 9-inch tart pan. So this is just about the right size. And the easy way to transfer a pie shell to the pan is to roll it up around your rolling pin, and then you move your pan and you just kind of drape it over like that. Now, and just roll right over the top, and it will cut just perfectly. You just have to pull it apart. There you go. We're making the filling now. It's very, very simple. We're just going to cream together the butter and a half a cup of honey. And after that, we're just going to mix in some sugar and some almond flour. And now I'm going to add 4 eggs, one at a time. The next ingredient is almond powder or almond flour. And if you can't find it, all you have to do is take plain old raw almonds and just put them in a food processor and just process them until they're fine. And then we're also going to add in a half of a cup of sugar. I'm just going to mix this to combine. And then pour it into the shell, and the pine nuts are going to go on top. Now I don't want to overfill this because it will expand a little bit while it cooks. So just use your judgment. That looks really good. Now I'm going to top it with those pine nuts, and when it gets into the oven, it's going to just kind of toast up. So this very simple tart is going to go into a 350-degree oven for just 20 minutes. So the tart is in the oven, and I'm going to go ahead and get all of this cleaned up. Now let's head over to Maplewood, Missouri and meet Cory King of Side Project.
My wife and I, Catherine King, own Side Project Brewing and the Side Project Cellar. It's the only place in St. Louis / actually Maplewood where you can come get Side Project beers. You know, you can go to like the West Coast and you can find sour beer, tart beer on draft at a lot of places, a lot of the nicer beer bars. In St. Louis, unfortunately, it's very hard to find a sour beer. They're very, very limited. And due to how limited they are, they're very expensive and they sell out very fast and then they're gone, you know? So I wanted to focus exclusively on making beer that I wanted to drink, which are these sour beers. So what I have here is a Saison Dubouillet. This is this huge honor for us. This year, Draft Magazine named it one of the top 25 beers of 2014. Really amazing for as small as my brewery is. Here, our draft system, I built our draft system, and we have, in these taps, I have 3 different temperature ranges. I can properly get the carbonation from the keg to the glass based on our gas blends that I have. I have on-demand gas blends back there. It's a pretty complicated system when you really dig into it. It's not just tapping, it's not like the kegger anymore. We are one of, I know of 4 bars in the country that can do the really fine-tuned per beer. Look at that guy, see? It's a proper carb level. Really what encapsulates the beer is it tastes like what a beer brewed here a long time ago would taste like, because it has wild Missouri yeast and bacteria. So it is a flavor of the state of Missouri now. One of what kind of makes Side Project unique is a lot of breweries ferment beer with Saccharomyces, a single yeast strain, if you will. Side Project beers can have dozens, if not hundreds of yeast, and not just yeast, but also bacteria.
But there is more and more research going into this sour beer production because there's so many living organisms in there. Where outside, out here in the brew house or the brewery, we'll have a beer that ferments with 1 yeast strain. It maxes out, it's done, 14 days later you have your beer and you're done. Where in here, some of these could have dozens, you know, maybe even 100 living organisms, and they're doing their thing, and they're not all going to do everything at the exact same time. And that is where you start tasting through and realizing, you know, what's going on. So for me, the fun thing to think about is day one, when I pitch whatever I've got, you have Saccharomyces, which is my standard brewer's yeast that everybody uses in all breweries around the country. And it goes at it and starts doing its thing with all these other little bugs, and they're just kind of hanging out, slowly growing. They're just slow and lazy. And then when that dies off, you have this environment that is lower in pH and alcohol and has alcohol in it now. And Saccharomyces is like, I'm done. Like, that's all I can do. And you have these other things in there like Brett's, pedio, lacto, which are still just hanging out because they're so slow. And then you'll start having one kind of take off. What it does is the population has to hit like its threshold. Like, it grows to a point like, all right, we can tell now that the sugar content in here and the volume at which we need to start consuming, we're ready for that. And now they switch over and start doing metabolism. They start metabolizing the sugars or whatever's left in there to start producing their character. And then those will die off. And then you have these other things in there like Brett will now start taking off. It's just weird to think about how everything can just do its own thing at its own time.
We make traditional farmhouse ales, if you will, and we wanted a very homey, inviting farmhouse feel to a place. We traveled to Europe earlier this year and got to drink beer in people's back rooms at their house, and we were really inspired by that. So at the Side Project Cellar, we have our beer on draft. We usually have 2. We're trying to keep them always on draft. So you can come here, drink it, share it. It's what beer's about, especially the way I package it. Share it, enjoy it, talk about it. Our personal connection with Side Project and with our customers and just with the whole industry and how small we are, it's still a whirlwind. It's still crazy to feel like we actually have a business, my wife and I. Like, we have this little business. This is what we do. To be able to, not distribute really and hand sell everything to the people that really want to come in and drink the beers, it's really cool. It is really, really cool. I just would have never imagined that as much beer as I'm making is still not enough. And I love every last bit of it.
So our pine nut tart has come from the oven. It is caramelized and gorgeous. And I'm just gonna make a quick salad dressing for the salad. This is a rustic French salad with some endive and radicchio and watercress, cucumbers, and 2 kinds of bell peppers. And the salad dressing is simply crème fraiche and mayonnaise. Just kind of whisk it all together. All right. So I am just going to drizzle this on top of our salad. It's nice and thick. Oh, this is gorgeous. I mean, when you think about how simple all of these recipes are and just how rich and deep the flavors are in each one of these plates, it's classically French and, as you can see, not very difficult to make. And I'm gonna pair this decadent meal with a Cynthiana from St. James Winery. And St. James is one of the largest wineries in Missouri, and they are in the Ozark Highlands region. Cynthiana is essentially Norton, which is our state grape. And wines made from this particular grape are rich and spicy and perfect for dishes just like this. So thank you for joining me this month for Feast TV, and I'll see you next time.